This is my final research proposal presentation by Pemba C. Sherpa. Since the 1990s, more than $15.6 billion of the state and local tax revenues have been spent or is planned to be spent on 73 new stadiums and arenas. With such an enormous amount of public subsidies given to the development and construction towards sports stadiums and arenas, we must look further into the details of these effects that these investments have had on local economies. We must do this in order to learn and conceptualize the proper budgeting for future state and local tax expenditures. If we do not learn from the history of expenditures towards these stadiums and arenas, our local economies will be in danger of enormous wasteful spending and debt, which in turn will ultimately affect the rest of the nation's economy as a whole. My research asks, how has the construction of sports stadiums and arenas affected the local economies of the cities that they are located in? The purpose of my research is to dig into the history of expenses and profits made by and for these professional sports organizations and their venues. My research will look to find any negative or positive effects that the professional sports organizations have had on local businesses and its residents alike. My research would also look to ask what kind of businesses prosper from having a local professional team sports venue nearby. Which business would suffer and why? How have these local professional sports organizations affected the local economies in a micro and a macroeconomical sense? By gathering information and data from previous work done in this field, this research will help us to uncover and realize the actual effects that professional sports and stadiums have had on certain cities and their local economies. After looking at the data and expenditures of the local professional sports venues in a clear way, we can look to see if these investments were profitable or not. Ultimately, this will lead us to spend our local and state tax revenues in a more efficient manner. There are various theories and different point of views when it comes to the key literature reviews. Some research suggests that the local economy on a local level does not see a positive benefit from the sports industry. As recently as 1980s, the sports industry have had minimal impact on the Charlotte's economy, while others suggest that the profits have been shared within the local economy due to the local sports industry. 1985 data shows a statistically significant positive relationship between team relocations and per capita income. As mentioned above, there have been many different theories surrounding the economic effects of sports industry. The theories relevant to my research go on both ends of the spectrum, meaning some believe that the sports industry played a big part in the positive growth on the local economies. For example, the major sporting organizations in Australia undertake significant economic activity in their own right. Home, 2002. While other theories state the stated rationale for the public expenditure on sports facilities then is almost always premised on the promise of indirect returns to the community via economic development. But the beneficiary teams receive concessionary lease terms, allowing them to pay little rent and to receive the lion's share of the revenues that are generated at the facility. For my research, I would use a qualitative survey which focuses on gathering information from the local residents who have professional and or amateur sports organizations that are located within their city, town, or state. The reason why I've chosen to gather my information from the local residents is because They are the first-hand citizens who are directly affected by the sports organizations and its perceived impact on the local economy. The local residents are the main individuals who were promised a better life financially when the sports team set up shop. The local residents are also the ones who are said to be employed by these sports organizations, and some are also local business owners who may have seen an economic impact caused on their own businesses. I will also conduct my research by using the data gathered by peer-reviewed articles and journals, which are relative to my topic question. These researchers and scholars have gathered and analyzed data from a relevant topic, which will help me to give more dynamic proof and evidence for my research findings. In order to reduce the data, I will be analyzing the survey answers and finding a common relevance that they all share. This will help me to find data that is more concise and not purely opinion-based. The quality of data will be improved by finding respondents who are in some way directly involved to their local sports team. As for the peer-reviewed research, the data will be checked on its validity and source. My selections of subjects are the economy, micro and macro, sports, professional and amateur, and facilities, arenas, stadiums, venues, etc. First, I will create questionnaires with qualitative questions and send them to the respective respondents, which goes in terms with my research design. For collection of data, I'll be using qualitative questionnaires. Second, I will gather these informations and answers and find a common relevance to respond to each respondents, which is the analyzation of data. As for my collection of data in my research design, I'll be using the peer-reviewed articles and the research data collected from the field studies. As for the analyzation of data, it will be through charts and data and graphs that are given in these journals and articles, and also the data collected from my own surveys and questionnaires. Then, with these answers in mind, I will follow up with an updated version of my survey for more respondents. Finally, with the data from both questionnaires, research, as well as other peer-reviewed articles and journals and researches, I will form a conclusion with evidence that have a common relevance. Meaning, I will be looking to find data that is more in a average term as far as what seems to be across the board in all states, as well as what seems to be the most familiar. From there, I will be forming my own answers from these common relevances. Thank you for your time. This is my research proposal. Once again, my name is Pemba C. Sherpa, and have a great day.